Hello, my name is Clay. Today I learned Abigail.
Welcome to Science Students Watching. Smile when you remember the answer for the question that I asked. Different kinds of animals are called what, students watching? Emily. Dev? Anna? Kaden? They're species. Let's say that together, class. Species. Well done. Divide into groups means to do what, Morgan? Students watching? Jacob?
Classify.
Yes, to classify. Which item or which type of God's creation makes its own food? Jimmy?
Plants.
Plants, exactly correct. We talked about dividing animals into two groups depending on whether or not they had a backbone. What do we call the group that does have a backbone, students watching? And Una?
Vertebrates.
Vertebrates is right, and the group that doesn't have a backbone are invertebrates. What do we call the bones and all of the framework that make up that body structure, Jacob?
Skeleton.
Yes, and we talked about 5 different groups of vertebrates. Give me one that you remember, students watching. And Kaden.
Birds.
Birds, good. Give me another, Presley.
Fish.
Fish is right. Give me another, Arthur.
Reptiles.
Reptiles, good. Give me another, Morgan.
Mammals.
Mammals. We're going to learn more about mammals today. Before we begin reading, let's take a look at some words to watch for as we begin and read our first word for us, Kaden.
Carnivore.
Yes, a carnivore is a type of animal that eats meat. Josh.
Herbivore.
Yes, an herbivore. Class, let's say that. Begin. Herbivore. An herbivore is an animal that only eats plants. Asa.
Omnivore.
Yes, class, let's say omnivore. Begin.
Omnivore.
Good. An omnivore can eat meat or plants or both. We're going to pick up on page 160, row 4. Come to be ready to read for us. As we begin reading on page 160, I want you to watch for certain things that all mammals have. They would be certain characteristics that would be the same with all types of mammals. Begin reading for us. Kaden, right in the middle of that page, do you have a pet?
Mammals. Do you have a pet dog or cat? Then your family pet is a mammal. Even a hamster or guinea pig is a mammal. What do these animals have in common? Think about their body design, skin covering, and life cycle.
Very smooth. Carly, continue.
Most mammals are born alive, not hatched from eggs. When mammal babies are born, their mother takes care of them. She gives them milk and teaches them how to survive. They usually have four limbs, such as legs, arms, or flippers. Mammals are covered with fur or some hair. Many mammals depend on fur for warmth and protection, while others use hair to help them feel or sense things.
Very smooth. Dev, continue.
God's design for the inside of a mammal's body is also special. They breathe oxygen with lungs, just like you. All mammals are warm-blooded. They can make your own heat, even if it's cold outside. Their body temperature stays just about the same, no matter what the temperature outside is.
Very smooth. Rest your books. So tell me something that a mammal would have in common with other mammals. Students watching? And Carson.
They're all warm-blooded.
Yes, they are warm-blooded. Now let's talk about what does it mean to be warm-blooded. When the outside temperature changes, whether it changes to hot or whether it changes to cold, a warm-blooded animal's temperature will stay about the same. That means that even though it might be cold outside or around where the animal is, that animal is able to stay warm because of its warm blood. If the temperature rises where it's very hot, a warm-blooded animal would still be able to maintain a relatively stable temperature where it doesn't get much hotter than it would normally be. And that's what an animal would be if it were warm-blooded. Give me another characteristic that mammals would have in common with each other. Madison? How are they born?
They usually aren't born in eggs.
Right, they are not born in eggs, so they are born alive. Well done. That would be something that we would consider as a characteristic. Here are some more of the characteristics. Let's take a look at this chart. As we take a look at this chart, we're going to notice that they make milk for their babies and they take good care of their young. So that's something that mammals would have in common. Something else that they would have in common would be that no mammal has more than 4 limbs. So that is something that they would have relatively the same or in common. They also have some fur or hair. So that would be something they have similar. All mammals have lungs and breathe air. And then we talked about how all mammals are warm-blooded. So we're going to talk more about specific mammals and how they still have these character traits. Before we begin reading more about those type of mammals, let's look at something to remember, the mammal characteristics that we just talked about. Come read them for us, Lexi, starting with number 1.
All mammals make milk for their babies and take good care of their young. No mammal has more than 4 limbs. All mammals have at least some hair or fur. All mammals have lungs and
Ian Lee.
breathe air. All mammals are warm-blooded.
Yes. Now rest your books. Let's talk about some of the things that we just talked about and smile when you remember. So what would the skin covering do for mammals that they have in common? What do they have in common as far as their skin covering? Emily?
Fur or hair?
Yes, that is correct. How many limbs do mammals normally have, Adriana? Jacob?
4.
4 is the correct answer. What do mammal babies need for food, students watching? And Arthur?
Milk.
Milk is right. How do mammals breathe, Jackson?
By using their lungs.
Yes, exactly correct. And what does it mean to be warm-blooded, Caden?
It means that even though it's cold or warm outside, you should stay the same temperature.
Right. The body temperature stays close to the same temperature. Let's take a look at something to try find your normal body temperature. Can you take your temperature? Try this and see. Read it for us, Amaya, what we need and then what we're going to do, starting with the 2 items that we're going to need.
What you need: thermometer cover. What to do: place a clean cover on the thermometer. Follow your thermometer's instructions. Take your temperature. If you are healthy, it should read about 98.6 degrees Fahrenheit. Remove cover and throw away. People have warm-blooded bodies. Your body temperature will stay the same even if it is very hot or cold outside. Many animals are also warm-blooded.
Rest your book. So this is an activity, students watching, that you could try at home to find out what your normal body temperature is. Now, the normal body temperature, about the same for most people, is 98.6. Now, yours might be a little bit higher, a little bit cooler than that, but that's around the normal body temperature for people. Take out a pencil. Let's take a look at our next page with our comprehension check. True or false? Write the word true or false in the blank. Number 1, make sure you take note of the word that is underlined. Animals can make their own food. Is that true or false? And why, Jimmy?
Because animals can't make their own food.
Right, so it would then be what? True or false?
False.
Right. What would make its own food? Students watching? And Lexi? Not animals, but Caden?
Plants.
Plants is right. Number 2, animals with backbones are called invertebrates. Una?
False.
What would they be?
Vertebrate.
You've got it. Number 3, all mammals have backbones. Josh?
True.
Yes. Number 4, most mammals are born alive. Arthur?
True.
Yes. Number 5, no mammal has more than 2 limbs. Students watching? Anna?
False.
Right. What would it be?
It has no more than 4 limbs.
4 is the correct answer. Number 6, mammals are warm-blooded. Cadence?
True.
That's right. Let's go on to the next section. You're going to give the correct answer and write it on the line. Into what 2 groups of animals Can they be divided or classified? Emily?
Species.
Okay, that would be a variety within a group of animals, but they would be divided according to whether or not they have a backbone. So what do we call those two groups?
Vertebrates and invertebrates.
Yes, vertebrates and invertebrates. Number 8, name the 5 groups or classes of vertebrates. Remember the letters that we used to keep them in their separate groups. What were the letters that we put together, Dev?
Farm B.
Yes, so name them for me. Use those letters to help you remember. Carson?
Fish, amphibians, mammals,
What does the R stand for?
reptiles,
Good, and then the B.
birds.
Birds, you've got it right. Each of those categories on the line. Now, number 9, mammals breathe with what? Students watching? Tyra?
Their lungs.
Their lungs, right. Finish that last answer. And then row 5, come to be ready to read for us. Pencils down. Now let's talk about some of those specific types of mammals. Books up and begin reading our terms to remember ASAP.
Carnivore, an animal that eats meat. Herbivore,
Okay, remember the H is silent, so it's just going to say in verse.
herbivore,
Herbivore.
herbivore, an animal that eats only plants. Omnivore, an animal that eats both plants and meat.
Good. And continue with what mammals live in water, Josh?
What animals live in water? Did you know that a whale is a mammal? It might look like a fish, but it has lungs for breathing oxygen. Have you ever seen a whale use its blowhole? That is how the whale breathes in and out. When the whale swims to the surface, it breathes out air. That is what you see coming out of its blowhole. It breathes air in before diving back into the ocean.
There you go. Keep using that phonics for speed and smoothness. Kathleen.
Whales can dive very deeply. The sperm whale can dive to 10,000 feet deep. Most
Short U.
submarines
The I has a long E sound.
submarines
Yes.
submarines can live can't even do that. Dolphins and
Or in morning.
porpoises are also mammals because they breathe with lungs. Fish do not need to swim to the surface to breathe. They get all the oxygen they need in another way.
Good accuracy on that last sentence. Rest your books. So whales, dolphins, and porpoises are considered mammals. Let's watch a video of some of these whales, and you can tell that they need oxygen to breathe because they have to come to the surface. At the top of that whale, there's a blowhole because the whale needs to be able to release the oxygen out of its lungs, then gather some more before it dives back down. So that would be a mammal, even though it lives in water, and that's how it would be different from a fish. Continue reading with what do mammals eat? Anna.
What do mammals eat? Some mammals are meat eaters. Lions, polar bears, and seals are all mammals that eat meat. Any animal that eats only meat is called a carnivore. Other animals are plant eaters. Cows, horses, and rabbits are all mammals that depend on plants or food. They do not eat meat. Any animals that eat meat that eat only plants is called an herbivore.
You've got it. Continue, Presley. There are.
There are even mammals that can depend on both meat and plants for food. We call these kinds of animals omnivores. Bears, raccoons, and skunks are all omnivores. You can tell what kind of food the animals eat by looking at its teeth.
So turn the page and let's look at a couple. Here you see a carnivore. There you see a picture of an herbivore and an omnivore. Carnivores have those sharp fang-like teeth for tearing meat. Herbivores have those flat teeth for crushing and grinding plants. And omnivores have different kinds of teeth for eating both kinds of food. Take out a pencil. Let's look at our comprehension check number 1. List the 5 groups of vertebrates. We've already said them together once. So remember, Farm B. Let's start with fish, and we'll say them in order according to Farm B. Together begin. Fish, amphibians, reptiles, mammals, birds. Go ahead and write those down. Then let's take a look at number 2. List list 2 ways that mammals are alike. Give me one. Morgan? Jacob?
Both breathe oxygen.
Yes, they do. They both breathe oxygen. They're warm-blooded. Those would be a couple of the characteristics. Look at draw lines to match. Which animals eat meat? What do we call that? Morgan?
Carnivore.
A carnivore. Which animals eat plants? Madison?
Herbivore.
Yes, an herbivore. And then which animal could eat both meats and plants? Adriana?
Carnivore.
Yes. Now we're going to listen to a story about a mammal. As you finish that up, the mole.
Hi, I live in a hole. I'm as dark as coal. I can climb a pole. I can eat from a bowl. But that's not my goal. Hey, you see, I'm a mole.
Well, howdy do, my good friend Soul Mole.
Hiya, Uncle Bob. Welcome to Nature Corner.
You betcha. Say, today we're going to learn the humble role of a mole.
Well, we're all out of words that rhyme with mole. It's kind of taking its toll.
Mr. Mole, you've had the last word. Now, I'm sure we all know what a mole looks like, sort of like a mouse, but with those sharp digger-type claws instead of feet.
Oh, man, they're out of sight. They're out of sight. They help me dig underground real fast, Uncle Bob. You'd be surprised how fast I can go out of sight.
Speaking of sight, Mr. Mole, someone said you were blind. Is that true?
No, I'm not blind. I can see, but not as well as some animals.
I see. Your eyes are quite small, aren't they?
Yes, they are, but my big nose makes up for my small eyes.
Now, naturally, you smell with your nose like anyone does, but is that all?
Oh, I smell with it like all animals, Uncle Bob, but my nose is my motion detector. I find moving objects with it.
Explain, friend Mole.
On the tip of my snout, I have several thousand tiny bumps of skin, each with a little hair sticking out. And these are called my Eimer organs.
Eimer organs. Must be for the person who discovered that. E-I-M-E-R. Okay, I've got that down. Now, these pick up vibrations?
Yes, even the motion of an earthworm or a grub crawling 5 feet away.
Ah, so this is how you find your food.
That's right. My intelligent designer meant for me to live underground, Uncle Bob. So he engineered a tremendous nose for me, extremely sensitive. When anything underground moves, the tiny hairs in my Eimer organs pick up the vibrations, and they shake, and they send that information to my brain.
Hey, you're kind of like a seismograph that detects an earthquake, only you detect the rumblings of the earthworm and the grub, huh?
Yeah, when I first pick up their wiggling in the soil, I'll turn my head until the vibrations get strongest. I dig in that direction. Oh, the grub will stop moving when he hears me coming. But I'm patient. I can wait for him.
Persistent character. Now, I heard a scientist say that you hunt every, 4.5 hours?
Yeah, and then I rest every 3.5 hours.
Now, why do you have to eat so frequently?
Oh, I cannot survive for more than a few hours without food. This is the way my body has been designed.
You know, Friend Mole, this is really good. Because we know that grubs and worms reproduce much more rapidly and in greater numbers than moles.
Right on, Uncle Bob. So someone has to keep the population down, or there'll be an explosion underground.
And your creator had this in mind when he made you.
Yeah, but we know in the beginning we moles did not eat other critters. We only fed on plant life. We, like all animals, were once vegetarians.
Right you be, this might get a little heavy for you, Mr. Mole, but it was our fault. The Bible says that when man sinned on purpose, this put a curse on all of the creation that he was in charge of. And as a result, animals started eating each other, not just plants.
Yeah, and when we animals die and decay, the plants eat us.
Yep, that's the way it goes. It's a cycle. But still, Mr. Mole, through it all, we can see that the Creator has given you a fantastic way of protecting yourself and finding food.
He certainly has, Uncle Bob. He's given the mole a better system of touch than he has to any other mammal on the face of the earth.
Is this true of your tail, too, as well as your nose?
Yeah, man. My tail has sensitive little hairs that pick up vibrations of worms and grubs or anything else that I might have uncovered while digging my tunnels.
So what do you do in a case like that? Just turn around and go get him?
No. You just throw it in reverse, back up, and snag him, Uncle Bob.
Now, wait a minute, Mr. Mole. Doesn't that mess up your pretty charcoal-colored fur coat going backwards like that?
No. You cannot rub the fur on a mole the wrong way. Front or back is okay, Uncle Bob.
Now, Mr. Mole, I hate to do this. I'm going to have to bring this to the surface, though.
Bob, I'm guilty. I know it. It sure will. I'll go out to the woods and open fields to hunt where people and dogs don't worry about little tunnels near the top of the ground.
You betcha, Mr. Mole. Thank you so much.
See you later, Uncle Bob.
And there you see, that's a type of mammal that God has created. We're going to be learning about fish in our next lesson.